Welcome everyone, Marcelo is my name. I am the niche fragrance collector, and today I want to be sharing more about beautiful smells and activating our nose. Sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on sight as a sense or our hearing, but in fact, if we couldn't smell, our lives would be black and white. I know mine would be. Whereas when you activate your nose, all of a sudden, your life becomes in technicolor. You begin to appreciate the things around you. As humans, we are super judgmental. In a nanosecond, we make judgments of others. Perfume is the mystery of you. Someone could look at you from a distance and go, I don't like, I do like, or I don't like the shirt, and I don't like that he has no hair. But then when they come close to you, they're like, whoa, is that you? I'm smelling something divine and something unique and beautiful. Is that you? And that has happened to me multiple times. In today's masterclass, I'm going to break it up into 3 categories. One is perfume designation and understanding what some of these words mean. Sillage, what does that even mean? Eau de parfum, eau de Cologne. So let's break that down. Then I'm going to talk about a fragrance wardrobe. Just like you have a wardrobe for your life, you wear something for work, but you wouldn't be wearing the same thing to a wedding, for instance, or to go out to the park. So same with a fragrance. You want to have something specific for a specific occasion. And then the last one, which I get a lot of question on, is where to spray. How to make your fragrance last long. How do you make the fragrance so it can project really nicely, and how can you smell it for a longer period of time? But before I start, who am I and why am I qualified to talk about these things? Well, the truth is I'm not really qualified, other than I am a deep perfume lover. Since the age of 5, I was stealing my father's Old Spice, true story. And I just enjoyed beautiful smells. I have a very active nose. I smell things quite easily. And perfume has always been a part of my life. Then in 2021, I started a YouTube channel, which is The Niche Fragrance Collector. And it's gained a lot of great momentum. I see perfume as an art form, and it's an art form that you can actually wear. Unlike wearing, I guess, a t-shirt of the Mona Lisa, I look like a tourist, whereas I could have a fragrance which is created by a master perfumer that transports me to another location. It's also identifying core notes and key ingredients that are derived from nature and how are they used. About 4 years ago, this led me to create a touring company, KEM Fragrance Tours. We take people behind the scenes, we show them how perfumers work, we take them to the field to pick certain ingredients and then see the extraction process. It's really about celebrating perfume as an art. Last year, as a result of all these different activities, we launched 3 fragrances celebrating where we were, which was Italy. The perfumer is Luca Maffei. He's one of the most awarded perfumers within Italy, and he created 3 unique fragrances celebrating Milan, Florence, and Rome. Common question I get is, why is it that I can't smell my perfume anymore? So what I'm about to share with you is only my recommendation, and this is what I've found successful for me, but at the end of the day, you do you. So if you love spraying 50 times, actually some people like to spray 15 to 20 times, I just could not even imagine that. I have a very sensitive nose, more than 3, so I do 3 sprays and I'll explain where. More than 3 is 4 at the absolute max. There's a real thing called going nose blind or being anosmic, and that is that your brain shuts off your nose and you can't now detect the smell anymore. Think of it this way. You've gone to the Vindaloo place or an Indian place, you've had a really bad Vindaloo, and oh my gosh, you need to go to the bathroom or the toilet. And guess what? You destroy that toilet. 5 minutes in, you can't smell anymore. And like, at first you're like, oh my goodness, open a window. But then 5 minutes in, it's not that bad. Until you finish, you flush, you walk away, but then you happen to go back and you're like, whoa, did I not flush? Because I'm still smelling something funky. So what's happened there is that your brain has shut out that particular smell profile. It wants to keep you alive, make sure that if there's anything else that you should be aware of when it comes to a smell, that it will now detect it. Another great example of this is a very close friend of mine went to New York and brought back Santal 33. At the time, he was like the king of the place. I remember one time I was in the office and I could smell Santal 33 everywhere. And I'm like, what in the world? Did this guy go around spraying every corner? All of a sudden he comes around the corner and I yelled, well, I didn't yell out, but I called out to him and I said, whoa, it's the Santal 33 man. He walks up to me and he says, "Can you smell my perfume?" I'm like, "Brother, everybody can smell your perfume, even the officers next door." He's like, "I can't smell it." He goes, I sprayed and then I couldn't smell, so I sprayed some more and then I sprayed some more. So he was covered in Suntel 33. It was just emanating from him. However, his brain went, "I get it. You like this perfume, but let's push it aside because I need to be aware of other things that are around me." So going nose blind is not something that you want to do when you have a beautiful fragrance on. My recommendation is only spray 3 times, but I promise that just like any other skill that you learned with your body, imagine trying to pick up, if you've never picked up a weight and now all of a sudden you're doing 50 kilos with a bicep curl and you've never done it before, well, do 2 or 3 and then you won't be able to use the arm. So it's about building up the stamina when it comes to that weight. Same with your nose. So I would recommend that you minimize your number of sprays and train your nose to detect the fragrance, to be aware of it. Where I like to spray is on my solar plex. This is on skin, on my stomach, and then my arm. And the reason why I do arm is so that I can, especially if I've got a new fragrance, smell it often and go tell my brain, I just smelled you did an overdose. Tell my brain, this is a fragrance that I want you to remember. Look out for it. Then what happens as the day progresses and as your body heats up, your stomach and your solar plex will begin to push that fragrance forward and you'll begin to smell it. For me, stomach, solar plex, and arm is enough for this beautiful cloud of fragrance to be around me for others also to detect. If I am going to a party, I do spray 1 more time. So if I'm going somewhere formal where there's going to be hugging or, a little bit, we're Latino, so we hug and kiss. I do a spray on the back of my neck, and that is as people get close to me, they can now smell the fragrance here. As a rule of thumb, I avoid spraying anything around my face. So stay away from neckline and things of that nature because you can ultimately go anosmic and then you won't be able to smell, you get frustrated. Or you overcompensate because you can't smell. And now I've got a friend of mine who does that and whew, I can smell her a mile away. So my recommendation is keep it the mystery of you and minimize your amount of sprays and you'll find that the fragrance still has great pop on you. Let's begin our journey with perfume designation. It's important to understand what all these different terminologies mean because they all serve a different purpose. What is an eau de cologne versus an eau de parfum? Why am I spending more money on one thing? How come it's not lasting on me? The core of it is the amount of oil that's in the actual fragrance, which then gives it its category essentially. We'll begin with the first one. This is an eau de cologne. An eau de cologne traditionally has between 3 to 5% oil in here. The rest of it is alcohol. So the idea behind it is that you have this incredible burst of effervescent sunshine essentially. It's very bright, it has a big push. The more alcohol in the actual fragrance, the bigger the volume is on that opening. But because the oil content is so low, you're going to find that it doesn't last very long. On skin, you're probably getting about maybe 4 to 5 hours. I tend to find a lot of eau de colognes are citrus based. This one here is the classic for that. This was created in, believe it or not, in 1612 by the monks from the Santa Maria Novella Church. It was created for Caterina de' Medici. She was leaving Florence to become the Queen of France and she wanted to remember her Italy. She said to the monks, make me a perfume that is citrus based, that reminds me of this beautiful landscape because I never want to forget my beautiful Italy. And this was created. It's called Acqua della Regina. You can still buy it today from Santa Maria Novella, and you'll find that it is a beautiful burst of sunshine, citruses and florals, and this wonderful herbal nature. It dries down to this woody aspect. It is, anybody can use it, a man or a woman, but I find that it is not as long lasting. 4 to 5 hours, it then gets to dry back, and then you have to reapply it again. And that, again, is because it's an eau de cologne. The next one, and you hear this quite often, is an eau de toilette. You tend to find that most eau de toilettes are between 10 to 15% when it comes to their oil concentration. The advantage that you have now, this is a great fragrance that you can now take to the office. It'll last you at least 5 to 6 hours. It has a beautiful burst, not too complex. There's not a lot of complexity going on, but it's a beautiful staying power fragrance. Where I like to live is with an eau de parfum I find that most eau de parfums are between 15 to 20%. More and more they're sort of stretching themselves out, so now they're about 23% oils. And I find that with an eau de parfum, you're getting a lot more longevity. You're also getting a lot more complexity. Sometimes a fragrance will begin here and then migrate to something different and then end in something completely wild. If you want to have an incredible ride when it comes to how a fragrance performs, this is Tony Iommi. It is an incredible fragrance, one that I highly recommend. It has a great staying power. It'll give you 12 plus hours without a problem. The next one is an extrait de parfum, and the idea is that you're getting between 23% to about 30%, but really more and more, a lot of brands are actually stretching that even further. Amouage now have some that have 54% actual oil base. So these are super complex, very dense fragrances. When you spray, you can almost see the film of oil on your hand. And those particular fragrances have incredible evolution. You're really now detecting the different florals or the woods or the things that they're trying to express. A great house that I love and absolutely adore is Matière Première, and they've recently released their extracts. These are very complex, beautiful fragrances that celebrate a particular note. In this case here, vanilla. Most vanillas sort of celebrate that gourmand, where here it's dry, it's woody, and it's just magic on a man to wear. The last one is an attar. Attars are now oil-based, so there is no alcohol here. In most cases, not that there is 100% of oil in here when it comes to its perfume, but the oil concentration is very high. In most attars, there is no spraying, because again, there's no alcohol. It's about dabbing it on skin, and you activate it through heat. In a lot of cases, you place attars on your heat spots, and you then begin to sort of rub that in, and it begins to create a bit more magic. The difference here is that now this attar or this oil will last you 24 or 48 hours without a problem. But when it comes to its projection, when it comes to its presence in the air, it's not as potent as something like an eau de parfum or even an eau de toilette. So why is it then that in the US, cologne is used to reference as a fragrance for a man, whereas perfume is referenced as a fragrance for a woman? In 1921, Coco Chanel came out with Chanel No. 5, and that became a global bestseller. All of a sudden, even though perfume was always around, now they realized that you can make money out of selling perfume. After World War II, a lot of the men came back from Europe bringing perfume to their girlfriends and their wives. The marketers realized that if I call this perfume, the men are going to think that this is something for a woman. So they had to separate it. And they now started calling it cologne. So Brut or Old Spice were actually deemed as colognes. That grabbed a hold and it made it easier to sell. Perfume, that's for a girl. Cologne, that's for you boys. Strong, aromatic, and woody. So now you have these two designations. For instance, if I say, let me buy a beautiful cologne, and I'm holding up this fragrance here, which I know is an eau de parfum with 23% oils in it, it's not the right terminology. It's like saying vehicle. And obviously, if we use the word vehicle, you automatically think of some kind of a car. But if I rock up with a tricycle, you're like, sure, you can move with that. It does propel you forward, but it's not necessarily a vehicle. So to call this a cologne is a mistake. It's actually a perfume. And all of these are perfumes. The word perfume, and this is the important part, comes from a Latin word which is per fumum, which means through smoke. The ancients and every religion, if you go back in time, whether it's the Israelites, whether it's the Egyptians, whether it's Hindu, whether it's the Muslims, we all believed that through beautiful smell, it was a way to honor God. If you look at Exodus 30, God tells Moses how to construct a beautiful smelling fragrance to honor him. So the word, the correct word when it comes to fragrance is perfume. Cologne is in reference to eau de cologne with only 3 to 5% oils in it. The second question that I get asked quite regularly is what fragrance is good for a man and what fragrance is good for a woman? Or I say, hey, you should try this out, this beautiful vanilla powder. A man will say, but is that for a woman or for a man? Okay. Perfume, beautiful smell is for everybody. And I'm not trying to be progressive or, sort of hip and cool. The reality is you wear what you like to wear. And I'm gonna make some recommendations today, which actually will encourage you guys to be wearing florals, in particular rose. I once had a perfumer, Luca Maffei, the creator of our fragrances, say to me, pasta. Which pasta is for men and which pasta is for women? And he's like, it's pasta. You eat what you like. If you like the skin spaghetti type, cool. If you like the bow ties, cool. So perfume is the same. If you like vanilla in your fragrance, a nice gourmand with a beautiful vanilla touch, it's awesome. Go ahead and wear that. If you're more of an aromatic, woody, bright, herbal kind of person, cool. Wear that also. If you like florals in your fragrance, like this guy does, then absolutely super cool, because now all of a sudden you'll open up your ability to wear different fragrances. And I'm going to tell you more about the fragrance wheel. The next one, projection, sillage, and longevity. These are important questions that get asked a lot when it comes to perfumes and how they perform essentially. Projection. This is now how a fragrance pushes off your skin when you're wearing it. I also find that with projection, it's also about heat activation. So I never spray on clothing, I always spray on skin. And I tend to find that as maybe 5-6 hours deep, as my skin heats up, if I'm doing something active, all of a sudden the fragrance begins to emerge again. And that is its projection. It's like the bubble that you have around you. Then there is sillage, and it's actually pronounced sillage. When I first started the channel, I was calling it sillage. No, that is a mistake. I wouldn't recommend that you call it sillage. I do recommend that you call it by its French name, which is sillage. Now, all of this is about chemistry. So it's about the density of the molecules that are in the air. And the intention is that as you walk past, the sillage, this trail of these molecules, this perfume, now lingers in the air and trails you. You may have had situations where a loved one has put on perfume, has walked past you, and you're like, whoa, what is that? So that's the trail, that's its sillage. If you're talking to someone face to face and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what is that? That is its projection. The last one is longevity. How long does the fragrance last on skin in a realistic sense? How long is it before you can't detect it anymore? I tend to find that most fragrances are going to be between 5 to 12 hours. There are some that are 24, as I mentioned, like these two here. Because there's a lot more density when it comes to the oils, you tend to find that they have a lot more staying power. Not necessarily do they have massive push on them. I mean, when they first open up, they great projection, beautiful sillage, but you wake up in the morning and these ones here, you'll still be able to detect on skin. The last one is understanding the different styles of fragrances that are out there. Designer, niche, dupes, and clones. What does this mean? Let me start with designer. For the longest time, before I got into niche, I thought that the only people who could make perfumes were designer houses. Dior, YSL, Chanel. The idea is that these designer houses now have an extension of perfumes in their collection. I tend to find that designers are constantly releasing and re-releasing varieties. For instance, they'll have Le Male blue, but then they'll have Le Male green with a fig, and then they'll have Le Male with something else. So the idea is that they are constantly sort of tweaking their existing formula. You also tend to find that in a lot of cases, it's about cost effective. There's almost like a blanket rule of what these fragrances will cost. Then you have niche perfumery. At the moment, niche perfumery has really exploded. It's actually driving the perfume market. Where designers have plateaued, niche has really just accelerated forward. In most cases, niche perfumery is about art expression. And now, where before a lot of the perfumers cap themselves at this sort of cost price, it's now whatever the perfumer wants to create. There's an incredible perfumer, an Italian perfumer called Matteo Fuscioni. He's always looking for unique notes that he can include into his fragrances, and pricing is not the issue. If you have a look at his fragrances, you'll find that he has different price points depending on what raw ingredient he is using in there. Then the last two, which is dupes and clones. These two I don't get myself involved in, and that's primarily because a dupe is a duplication of something that was successful. Now sort of give it a little bit of a twist. For instance, Creed released a fragrance called Aventus. It became a really big hit, and a lot of houses came out, dupe houses, that copied that kind of sort of DNA, gave it a little bit of a twist, but essentially it's the same thing but just done a little bit differently. The last one is cologne, and I don't I don't really sort of delve in clones at all. I find that cologne, and I say this respectfully because at the end of the day, this is your money. You do what you want with it. There is no judgment. For me, it is a little bit parasitical, the cologne market, because what they're doing now is that when they see that there is a winner in whatever fragrance is out there, they will literally copy it note for note and create a much cheaper variety. The difference is that they're now using all synthetic oils. There's nothing wrong with synthetics other than it's super cheap. Whereas the original may use actual vanilla or an actual rose, which is very cost prohibitive. Take, for instance, orris butter, which is actually derived from the iris plant. It can range between 25,000 euros a kilo to 85,000 euros a kilo. Whereas to get its equivalent is now going to cost you a couple $100s to actually create that. So you find that clones see a winner, copy it, and away they go, which essentially is stealing someone else's hard work, the money that they've invested in that to copy something and just make money out of it. So for me, I do love designer fragrances. There's a lot of beautiful designer fragrances. Even though it's not something that I delve into, I am fully onboarded with all things niche, and this is where I live, either a designer or a niche fragrance. Now, I mentioned before that you need to create a fragrance wardrobe, and I've done 4 categories essentially. Every day, so go to the office, hang out, go to the park. Then something for summer, something that is going to really accentuate with that heat. Then something for more formal events, if you're going out for dinner or you're going to a wedding or something of that nature. And then for now, cooler weather, or it could even be, and I purposely grabbed this because I know Northern Hemisphere right now, summer's coming on, and you want something that's going to be a little bit different for an evening. Before we begin, you need to understand where you live, meaning, where do you sit on the fragrance wheel? This is a concept that was pioneered by a man called Michael Edwards, an Aussie. Years ago, he realized that there needed to be some kind of classification, something to make it easy to understand how fragrances operate, because this is very different to this. So the fragrance wheel shows all these different families of where a fragrance lands. And it's interesting that most men, I've discovered, love to sit with either aromatics or dry woods. So what I've done, all of the front row are all in either an aromatic or a dry wood, meaning that you could grab this and you will instantly love it. Then the ones behind it, I want to now push you into other parts, because as you can see, the wheel is vast. There's lots of different other categories, other families. And for me, I'm a bit of an adventurer and I like to discover new things. So the second part of that wheel is something that's going to push you out, but it's still going to work for you as a man. I mentioned the 4 categories, and I really believe in this. One perfume for everything in life is not the way to go. It's like saying, I wear a t-shirt and I go to work with it. I also wear that t-shirt and I go out to a fancy dinner, to a wedding, to a funeral. It's not going to work. You need a particular garment for a particular occasion. And I recommend particular fragrances for different parts of your life. You don't want to be, you've got a boss who's mega annoying. You don't want to be wearing the same perfume when you go out with your girlfriend, your wife, and you're smelling this perfume and you're thinking about this crackerjack who's driving you crazy. So you want something to separate your life. So something that you can take out for when you go to the office, but then something you take out when you go out now for dinner or something a lot more fun. So let me begin. The all-star winner everybody needs in their collection, Green Irish Tweed by Creed. This is your MVP. You will never go out of style. You'll never miss out on or regret on owning this. And it's a glorious fragrance. It's such a it's a confidence maker. This one here, I would recommend it for your office. So this is the one that you take to as your everyday fragrance. It's a confidence booster. Perfume is known to change your physiology. You think differently. There are certain smells that inspire confidence. There are certain smells that also calms people around you. This one here, it's the smell of money. This is a man or a person who knows who they are and has a certain presence in the world. I find that men and women are drawn to this fragrance. The moment that someone catches wind of Green Irish Tweed, there is an instant attraction. It happened just then. I sprayed it, and if anything, it brought back memories of where I've worn this. So whether it's been in meetings or whether it's been in like a formal or informal, it's a day-to-day fragrance. It's something that is super versatile. Some of the key notes, and without sort of bogging down as to, what are the notes and what are they doing, but to get us an essence of what the fragrance is, think of like a mossy spring where water is flowing, there is a sense of greenery, there is a freshness in the air, something is sparkling. It's like the start of the day, and you know that it's going to be a glorious sunny day throughout. So you're getting that vibrancy, that energy, surrounded by woods and green and water. All of that exists here in its scent profile. There are two key facets to this. One is a lemon verbena, and that gives it this citrus, but more with a green sort of touch. If you've ever grabbed a lemon verbena, a plant, and crushed that leaf, you're getting a beautiful balance between the herbal, the green, and then that citrus lemony sort of scent profile. The second one is a violet, and violet does this beautiful, it's a floral, but it's now a very powdery floral. So it gives it a very earthy, very grounding sort of sensation to it. It's divine, and it's, as I said, it's a confidence maker. If you're trying to close a deal within work, if you need to pitch a major project to your boss, Green Irish Tweed will be your companion. The other thing I find that the fragrance, as your body heats up, emerges again and gives you a burst of like, you got this. Everything is good. A total winner. Interestingly, so women love the scent profile of Green Irish Tweed, but men somehow resonate. Think of it like the alpha dog. The alpha has a presence, has a smell, I'm sure of it. And this is what I find Green Irish Tweed does. If you're a man and you need to present to other men, there's maybe your colleagues are all men, then Green Irish Tweed sets you apart. It gives you like an edge. People are like, what are you wearing? You smell confident. Big recommendation. Now, if you want something a little bit different, still on a day-to-day basis, still masculine and still very confident and creates presence, I would recommend to you an awesome house. This is actually a house based in the US called Zaharoff. This fragrance here is actually using a black rose that's taken from a town called Halfeti, based in Turkey. Because of the soil in the water, it creates a black tinge to a rose. And this is called Signature Black Rose Halfeti. And oh mama. According to the wheel, this is now going to push you into a new territory. This is deemed as a floral. It dries down with a little bit more of that rose accent. However, this was created for a man. So George Zaharoff, he's very much into accessible luxury. That's how he deems his fragrances. And the fragrances he creates, the entire house, is very much with a man in mind. You find that the fragrance has great staying power on your skin. Similar to Green Irish Tweed, it's about confidence. It's about projecting to the world that you know your stuff. You're grounded, you have a clear vision of who you are as a man. And now the difference is that it accentuates that more woody, peppery rose. This is my go-to. For me, I find that this creates a bit of a different buzz. So where Green Irish Tweed, it's that alpha, it's the sense of full confidence, full strength. Here, it balances between still being the alpha, but also knowing that you've got a soft side, that that you are relatable, that you are approachable. Whereas Green Irish Tweed just says, I'm the man, stand back, I'm coming through. The rose does come forward. I know a lot of men are very reluctant to have rose in their perfume, but you need to push that aside. Like pasta, whether it's skinny or bow tie, it doesn't really matter. It's about you being confident to wear it. Because of those earlier notes of the more cypriol, so you get that sparkling sort of cypress and wood-like and fresh and vibrant mixed in with that beautiful rose, it gives it a beautiful balance and a wonderful masculinity, but with that twist, with that floral twist. Now, both of these fragrances, you're going to find great longevity. You're going to get an easy 6 to 7 hours without a problem. And when I find that both of these fragrances fall into a very similar category when it comes to its projection and sillage. They're in the moderate, so it has nice push. People around you don't have to get too close for them to pick up this fragrance. And I'll go one more. For me, I have a very sensitive nose to green Irish tweed. I can detect it and instantly I go, oh, okay, you're trying to be the alpha here, you know? So when I smell green Irish tweed, I'm also looking at the way they're dressed and it very much fits that style. Whereas with Black Rose, this is now more, it has great push, but when I smell this, there is, I don't know, it creates a different sense or it creates a different feeling from me that this person here is very self-assured, very confident, but now they don't have to worry too hard to pretend that they're the alpha. They know that they are the alpha. Two fantastic fragrances. So these two I would strongly recommend as everyday fragrance. You can wear this going out, you can wear this casually, you can wear this dressed up. They're an easy fragrance to wear. Now, moving into summer, you want something that the more you sweat, the more it accelerates, the more it pushes forward, the more sunshine seems to be produced. The easy one, the one that you'll be able to pick up and go, yep, I'm in love, I know it, which is this one here, Maison Francis Cujon's Gentle Fluidity Silver. What I like about this, and here's the beautiful twist, there's silver and there's gold. Now, Francis Cujon, what he wanted to do was grab the same notes, but now order them in a different way. I go back to that artistry and that perfume as an art form. Mix up these notes in a different way to create a different scent profile. So silver is a lot more woody and aromatic and bright, and gold is now more amber and vanilla and softer. So you and your partner, you could be wearing one or the other, and then the idea is that you create a symphony, a silhouette of each other with these fragrances. For me, I love silver as a beautiful, masculine, confident maker fragrance also. Yes, it can be just gorgeous. You know what I love about it? The difference between this and this, both fall into that aromatic category. Here, Green Irish is that mossy green, watery effect, bright morning, touch earthy with that powdery effect. Whereas here, Gentle Fluidity is pure sunshine. It is pure happiness. It's now the heat of the day. The sunshine is just really busting through. Your shirt is open, you're sweating a little bit, and there is a vibrancy in the air because of this fragrance. You find that one of the core notes in here is a nutmeg, so you're getting a wonderful sort of herbal, spicy element out of it, and also coriander seed. And that coriander seed gives it that spring in its step. It does have vanilla in the base, and you can detect it on that first spray. There is a touch of sweetness that comes through, but when it dries down, the cedar, those other earlier notes begin to sort of settle in, and it's just divine. It's a gloriously magical fragrance. This is my wife's favorite. Whenever I spray this, I mean, one time I would say, well, I was inside, she was outside, and it was only through our bathroom window that I heard her yell from the outside, "Are you wearing Gentle Fluidity? That smells amazing." So she's got a radar for this particular fragrance. And again, going back, where Green Irish men seem to be more aware, they know the alpha is in the room. I find that with Gentle Fluidity Silver, that the female nose seems to be a lot more intrigued by it. It's a lot more appealing and they're drawn to it. I think it's because of that vanilla, that little bit of sweetness in the background, but still keeping the aromatic brightness of those earlier notes. This one here, you're gonna get a comfortable 7 to 8 hours without a problem, and I find that its projection is now a little bit more than just moderate. It has a nice big push. As I mentioned, I was inside, my wife was outside, and she could detect the fragrance the moment it came out. When I start to sweat, it re-accelerates. It pushes the fragrance out once again. So it's one that's perfect for a sunny day, does a great job. We look across the wheel. The next one I would recommend for summer is Xerjoff's Uden Overdose. The key about this one here is that, I guess the central note is a citrus note, but it uses an amber on the base. And in my opinion, so amber, for those who want to know, is a constructed note. You sometimes see the amber looking image, which looks like something off a tree. In fact, the perfumer constructs this amber accord by including different notes all together. And one of the notes in an amber accord is vanilla. And what I get here, and I got it just before when I sprayed, is this very subtle, very soft, very caressing, almost think of velvet, you know, the very softness that velvet has, but it's now with this ginger and citrus on that opening, but this amber vanilla accord is coming over the top of it. I recommend to you this. On card, you get a feeling for the actual fragrance, but when you place something on skin, you'll find it does a whole different song or dance to you. For me, Uden Overdose requires skin. This is one of my favorites. I cannot get enough of this fragrance. I find that the whole house of Xerjoff is something that I truly, truly enjoy. They're an Italian creator. They use quite luxurious oils. They're quite dense oils also. And in Uden Overdose, you're gonna find that you're gonna get 24 hours. You'll wake up in the morning and you'll be smelling this on your skin. The next part, I will recommend where to spray, and that'll then allow the fragrance to have a lot more presence. But as I said, between card and skin. So on skin, I'm actually getting the phases a lot clearer, meaning that right now I'm getting this beautiful citrus, this Calabrian bergamot that's coming through. There is a touch of ginger, so you're getting this little bit of a zing. And then there's a brightness in there. This is beautiful happiness that again, over a summer period, accelerates in such a beautiful way. As the fragrance dries down, it does go into that amber, a touch of woodiness in there. It just makes you happy. It's a fragrance, the more you sweat, similar to Gentle Fluidity Silver, the more you sweat, the more it produces itself. There is a sense of amorous love when it comes to Uden Overdose. I have worn it many times as my going out fragrance, so I would use Gentle Fluidity Silver as a day fragrance, fun, sunshine bursting through, and then Uden Overdose is something that I would wear of an evening. I would even put them on top of each other because there is vanilla here, and so that vanilla will then accentuate even more. It's just a beautiful going out evening summertime fragrance. And you'll find that its projection and sillage is in now that not super confident, but you know, confident moderate. So it has a really big push, has a great trail. When you're wearing this, you will be noticed. Let's do event. So the event that's in my mind could either be a wedding, so something festive. It could even be like a work event where it's a large conference or something of that nature. And there are two fragrances here. One will be something that is aligned with what you like, meaning that it does have those aromatic facets, has the barber shop sort of context to it. The other one is the one that I would recommend, and now it's a deep floral. So we'll go into, this is the one, so Radical Rose is the one that I always recommend to men if they're going to a special function like a wedding, or if they're being awarded something. Radical Rose will set you apart. But let's do the safe one first. So this is the House of Amouage. It is a it's a perfume house based in Oman. They make very luxurious fragrances. One of their core, I guess, signature is that they love using a lot of incense in their fragrance and celebrates that region essentially. Here, and the moment that opened, is your classic man. This is a really well-dressed, sophisticated, think James Bond, somebody who has a quiet, stealthy confidence. There's that classic scene where James Bond walks in at the casino and there's Craig Daniel, and he's just I don't know, he just looks like, don't mess with me. But at the same time, there is this air of confidence that is just oozing out of him. And he's wearing Memoir Man, guaranteed. You find that most men love barbershop style fragrances. And what does that mean? So it's actually a fougere. And fougere structure is herbal with some mossy elements, and then the woods behind it all, so this earthiness. And here is the structure again, but now done in a much more creative and unique way. So that opening has a wonderful mixture of these herbal notes. In particular, for me, it's the mint and this green basil, this very earthy basil that comes through. Here's another one where, let me make sure that I don't run out of real estate where to spray. Uden is glorious. So here, that opening, you get this wonderful minty basil coming through, but there's also like an absinthe note. So this kind of licorice sort of sensation to it. It's complex. And again, between card and actually spraying on skin, two different experiences. One that I would recommend, put it on skin and you're gonna find that it does a whole different song and dance for you. As it begins to dry down on that middle part of the fragrance, you're going to get a lot more of the aromatic lavender. There is a rose in there. You don't get a lot of that rose sort of coming forward. Finally, it does settle into a wonderful earthy oak moss with a touch of incense coming through. Beautifully complex, something quite, it's super unique. So again, barbershops, they tend to be a little bit predictable in my opinion. So fougères tend to be very being bomb. Whereas here, even though it's following that structure, the notes that are being used to create this magic is something quite unique. I find that this fragrance here has at least 5 to 6 hours. So it's not a huge monster, but again, in my opinion, when you're going to a function, you don't want to have something too loud because otherwise, well, it's gonna cover up the whole room and there's no more mystery. You know that this person is in the room because this fragrance is everywhere. The other one that I would recommend that does create a incredible sense of mystery around you is called Radical Rose. And this is a complete celebration of the floral rose note. There's a perfumer called Aurélien Guichard. He pioneered this concept. So he actually cultivated a massive rose farm in the south of France called Grasse. It is an organic rose farm and similar to a vintage. He basically, whatever he extracts from his farm is the only rose that goes into Radical Rose. So he won't blend it with other roses. This is the most just magical fragrance for anybody to wear. This is, I mean, obviously a rose and in a female's fragrance is a no-brainer, but for a man, and there it is, and for a man, Radical Rose is, it just creates such a beautiful aura around you. You're approachable, you're lovable, you're intriguing. You're gonna find that in these events, most men, I'm gonna say 99.9% of men are wearing a fougère. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is why I put it forward. If you would like that, it's a very safe bet. It's a little bit different to your standard with fougères when it comes to Memoir Man, but not many men will be wearing a beautiful floral fragrance that works well on a man's skin. The beauty of here is that unlike when you think rose, sometimes there's a misconception or a misrepresentation that a rose is a rose. But in fact, there's the rose in nature has a lot of facets to it. There is that greenness if it's a very young rose. There is a bit more if you take one of the petals and crush it. You're getting almost like a raspberry jamminess coming from it. Then if you grab the whole entire rose and inhale that, you're getting a very dense, rich floral rose scent profile. And I find that Radical Rose balances all these elements. What Aurélien did, and this is something that he, again, pioneered, is that he wanted to respect this core note rather than put all these other things around it and create an expression. He wanted to celebrate. I mean, put all this trouble into creating this organic farm, this small cultivation when it comes to its roses, and then all of a sudden to start throwing in vanilla or other elements that disguise this rose, it wasn't what he wanted to do. So in fact, the notes that are in here, the essence is you pick that rose and all the facets that you get in nature is what he wants to replicate in the perfume. On the opening, you are getting a bit of a raspberry brightness from that rose. Then as it moves through, it does go into more of the woody and then also the green aspect of the actual floral. And it's magical. Many, many times I've had men reach out to me saying, I'm going to a wedding or I'm doing some special function. What would you recommend? And without fail, Radical Rose is my recommendation to them. I asked them, if you do take on my recommendation, let me know how you went. And a lot of cases, men who are brave enough to go, fine, I'll jump without looking, have come back going, I cannot believe how many compliments I got. I cannot believe how great I smelled. I cannot believe how it smelled so different on me. It wasn't just a rose, there was more facets to it. There is an ambery nature to it. It is a floral amber, or falls into that category. And you'll find that there is a warmth from this. And as it dries down, so deeper in the night, the rose sort of fruitiness dries itself back. You're getting this amber warm effect on skin with a slight floral touch. I find that for me, Radical Rose has great longevity. You're going to get 10 to 12 hours without a problem. And its projection and sillage is in that moderate. So it has nice push around you. People who are, if you're sitting down next to somebody, they'll be able to detect your fragrance. One that I would recommend for a special event, Radical Rose, is magical. In closing, the last two, I deem these as winter fragrances, but truthfully, they can also work really well as a summer evening fragrance going out. Having said that though, great for winter, you can wear them all day long. Now, actually, last part, I selected these for a particular reason when I first got into niche, and I started to enjoy the different sort of bottles and how they express. I came across Penhaligon, so they have a lot of fragrances with the bow tie. It's an old established fragrance house set in England or based in England, and they came out with the portrait collection. And I love the portraits because the headpieces reflect to a degree the actual fragrance themselves. So if you're a collector like some people, then for me these look fantastic on shelf. The first one that I would put to you, Terrible Teddy. It's a dry woods fragrance. There are three key notes: ambroxan, which is an ambergris replacement. So ambergris is derived from the whale as it spews out the interior. It's a very sort of musky and ozonic, and has an ocean sort of seaside sort of feeling to it. Now we use ambroxan to mimic that particular scent profile. It also has leather and incense. And what I get here, actually I smelled it as I was talking to you. What I get here is this beautiful, confident, aromatic leather. I tend to find that leather fragrances can be, some of them can be quite heavy, you know, quite hard hitting, whereas here, it has this lightness to it, has this brightness to it. There's also, even though there's no woods noted in the actual construct, I do get like a slight woody, like a cedar wood sort of feeling to it actually here. If you were to saw a cedar wood or a cypress tree or something like that, that woody effect, that sort of brightness that comes out of that is what you get here. This is a wonderful, again, it could work as a summer fragrance because it does create this beautiful sense of confidence, this air of like, I got this, no one can stand in my way, similar to the rhinoceros head on the actual bottle. But don't underestimate its longevity and power. This fragrance, 24 hours. This will go on and on. I've recommended it many times to my nephews who are young men. This is one of their favorites, actually. My 3-year-old grandson loves wearing Terrible Teddy. As he comes up, or his mother sprays Terrible Teddy on him, as he comes up to me, I can smell this just very debonair sort of air about this little guy. There's something, it's a confidence maker. There's something quite alluring about Terrible Teddy. It's great for you as the wearer because it creates a sense of reassurance on who you are. And when it comes to its sillage and projection, it's in a very confident moderate. The other one that I absolutely adore wearing, and I'd love the headpiece, is the Blazing Mr. Sam. Each of these have backstories. And the Blazing Mr. Sam is an American in 1940s England, 1950s England, I think, who's trying to win the heart of somebody. There's all these different backstories. But I love it. Oof, there it is. There is, where Terrible Teddy is a little bit more subdued. It projects, but it's a little bit more sort of pulled back. The Blazing Mr. Sam is in your face. He's got his hands on his hips and he's telling you, you know, what do you need from me? Because I got it. And what I love about this one here is that there's now a collection of notes. I find that Terrible Teddy is very structured. It's, you know, it's you get a feeling from the fragrance as it begins to where it will end. Whereas the Blazing Mr. Sam is now this explosion of these incredible, beautiful notes, super alluring, draws you in very quickly. It has this like a brightness with a cinnamon sort of appeal. There's a woodiness in there. There's a touch of vanilla in the background. There is an earthiness that also occurs. All of this is happening as the fragrance opens up. Then as it begins to dry down, you're getting a beautiful, earthy, woody aspect to the fragrance. This is the one that you go out with. So Terrible Teddy could be something, is a day-to-day. You could enjoy your day at the office, or, you know, if it's a, you know, a cool evening and you're going out for a stroll. Whereas the Blazing Mr. Sam is what you take out for the evening, something that you go out for dinner with, and you want to create a bit of a statement with it. I do love that there is a sweetness and a greenness. One of it is provided by the vanilla, and so on skin you're going to see that vanilla really take shape more deeper down. On the card it seems to come out a little bit faster. And then there's greenness that's provided by the cardamom. There's a touch of spiciness. As I mentioned, there is cinnamon here, so you are getting that cinnamon woodiness coming through. On the card, it seems to project itself a little bit faster. On skin, this is beautiful balance. A lot of people say that they can detect like a beautiful warm tobacco. For me, I get more of the patchouli. So patchouli has this camphorous, very earthy sort of aspect to it. And when it dries down, it has this glorious camphorous patchouli touch, but with the vanilla and that spicy at the beginning and the cinnamon, this is a deal maker. This is just a glorious fragrance to enjoy. You're going to get, again, 12 plus hours without a problem. And now I find that its sea agent projection is a lot more confident, has a lot more push. When I'm wearing it, a lot more people are aware that this fragrance is in the air. 8 fragrances, something for everybody, something across the wheel. As I mentioned, you've got your safe bet at the front with now your more adventurous ones when it comes to, I guess, pushing yourself outside of just the aromatics and dry woods. There's a lot more to talk about. I wanted to talk about how extracting fragrance from nature and what that creates, the magic that it creates in a fragrance. This is a fragrance line that we developed. In particular here, this fragrance that celebrates Florence has a Florentine iris. So we actually are using an iris from a farm that's close to the Tuscany, Florence area, and it creates a magical scent profile. If you want to know anything more about olfactive travel, you can jump on my website to explore there. So there you have it, beautiful fragrances to enhance your life and also to bring some sunshine into the world and to those people who come in contact with you. If you've got any questions for me, please reach out. I look forward to answering those, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.